You need to hear this now because most people never see this shift until it is already happening. The second you stop chasing, something changed inside them fast. Not slowly, not casually, fast. They felt it before they could explain it. They sensed your energy pull back, your attention go quiet, your need disappear, and that silence hit them harder than any argument ever could. What shocks them is not just that you stepped away, it is that you finally meant it. That is what shakes them. Because when someone is used to your effort, your messages, your emotional presence, your constant willingness to reach, they quietly build their confidence on top of it. They may never admit that. They may act calm. They may pretend nothing touches them. But the moment your pursuit ends, the floor under that false confidence begins to crack. And this is where it gets serious. They start feeling a gap where your energy used to be, a strange, empty space, a silence that feels louder than words. If you have ever walked away and felt them react in weird ways right after, stay with me, because what happens next is not random, it is psychological, it is deep, and for them, it can become impossible to ignore. By the end of this, you will understand why your silence does more than chasing ever did, and why their next move often begins long before they send a message or show up again. The first thing your silence does is turn into a mirror. That is why it affects them so much. When you were chasing, they could stay distracted, they could stay comfortable, they could keep enjoying the attention without having to ask themselves what any of it really meant. But once you stop, the whole structure changes. Your absence forces them to look inward, and many people hate that more than rejection itself. Rejection at least has shape. It has a clear story. Silence does not. Silence leaves a blank space, and the mind rushes to fill blank spaces with fear, doubt, memory, and unfinished emotion. Suddenly they begin thinking about you at odd times. In the car, in the shower, late at night when the room is quiet. They replay your words. They remember things they ignored. They hear your tone differently now. They see your kindness differently now. They even start wondering whether they misunderstood your value all along. That question alone can disturb them more than they want to admit. Because once they realize you may not come back the same way again, the old feeling of control starts slipping through their fingers. And when control leaves, panic often enters. Not always loud panic. Sometimes it is subtle, a restless mood, a tighter chest, a constant urge to check their phone, a random curiosity about what you are doing. But underneath all of that is one painful truth. They can feel you slipping out of the role they assigned you, and they do not know how to handle it. What makes this so intense is that your absence does not feel like simple distance to them. It feels like exposure. It reveals things they were avoiding about themselves. It makes them question whether they liked you for who you truly are or for how your attention made them feel about themselves. That is not an easy thing to face. Most people do not want to admit they got comfortable being admired. Most people do not want to admit they enjoyed being pursued more than they valued the person doing the pursuing. But once you pull away, that hidden truth starts rising. They may feel anger, they may feel guilt, they may feel a strange mix of both at the same time. One part of them misses you. Another part resents that you had the power to affect them this much. One part wants to reach out. Another part feels embarrassed that they even care. This inner split is where the unraveling begins. It does not always look dramatic from the outside. Sometimes it looks like sudden silence from them. Sometimes it looks like passive behavior, random online activity, indirect signals, or a strange increase in attention that seems to come from nowhere. If you have seen someone become colder and more curious at the same time, that is the contradiction. Their mind is divided. Their pride wants distance. Their deeper emotions want access. And when those two sides start fighting, people become unpredictable. Keep listening, because this is exactly why so many people return right after you stop chasing, even when they acted so sure of themselves before. The human mind hates uncertainty. It can tolerate pain longer than it can tolerate not knowing. That is why your withdrawal bothers them so deeply. When you were available, they did not have to imagine losing you. Now they do. And the mind immediately starts building scenes they never wanted to see. You laughing without them. You moving on. You giving someone else the softness, loyalty, or attention they once took for granted. You becoming harder to reach. You becoming happier. You becoming free. Those mental pictures start haunting them because now they are no longer watching someone who revolves around them. They are watching a person who may no longer need them at all. That is a brutal realization for someone who secretly depended on your pursuit to feel important. So they start revisiting details. The message you did not send. The reply that never came. The conversation that ended differently. The energy shift they felt but tried to ignore. They overanalyze everything because overanalysis gives the illusion of power. If they can decode what changed, maybe they can fix it. If they can explain your silence, maybe they can control it. But that is the problem. Your silence is not giving them enough material to feel safe again. It stays open. It stays undefined. It leaves them with the one thing they were trying to avoid, their own feelings. And when someone is finally left alone with emotions they have been dodging for months, sometimes years, that inner pressure starts leaking into behavior fast. At first, their response may be small, almost invisible. A quick check on your profile, a delay before they post something, hoping you will notice, a message typed and deleted, a restless thought that keeps coming back. Then it grows. Regret starts getting sharper. The things they dismissed before begin to look different. They notice how steady you were, how patient you were, how much energy you gave. They begin comparing your absence to the noise of everyone else, and suddenly what once felt ordinary now feels rare. This is when they may start imagining ways to pull you back in. Not always because they are ready to love well, but because the mind wants relief from uncertainty. They may want a reaction, a sign, proof that they still matter to you. That is why some people return with mixed signals, emotional messages, casual check-ins, or unexpected intensity. They are trying to close the gap your silence created inside them. But here is the darker truth. Not everyone returns from clarity. Some return from panic. Some return because your distance wounded their pride. Some return because they cannot stand the idea that you may truly move on. That is why what happens next matters so much. Because once your silence wakes up their deeper mind, their next move can come from longing, from control, from guilt, or from all three at once. If this is hitting home, stay until the end. Because the final piece explains why they sometimes act obsessed only after you finally let go. The deeper this goes, the more personal it becomes for them. Your silence stops being about a missed text or a break in routine. It turns into a direct challenge to the image they had of themselves. Maybe they saw themselves as the one with the upper hand, the one who could take space whenever they wanted, the one who could keep you emotionally nearby without fully committing, fully choosing, or fully showing up. But once you stop chasing, that image starts failing. Now they have to face a version of themselves they do not enjoy meeting. The version that needs validation, the version that fears being replaced, the version that suddenly realizes attention is not guaranteed forever. This creates a strange emotional storm. They feel want. They feel shame for wanting. They feel envy at the thought of you becoming unavailable. They feel guilt for not valuing you better. And through all of it runs one sharp thread. Fear. Fear that they waited too long. Fear that you finally saw through the game. Fear that the door they thought would stay open is slowly closing. This is why their behavior can start looking irrational. They may become more watchful, more reactive, more emotional in indirect ways. One day distant, the next day curious. One day proud, the next day almost desperate. That inconsistency is not confidence. It is inner conflict. It is what happens when someone feels the loss of control before they have found the courage to admit what they actually feel. And here is the part most people miss. You do not have to fight, explain, threaten, or perform for this mirror to work. You simply stop chasing. That is enough. In fact, that is what makes it so powerful. When you argue, they can defend. When you plead, they can withdraw. When you keep reaching, they can keep delaying. But when you go quiet with real self-respect behind it, there is nothing obvious for them to push against. No scene to manage, no emotional chaos to blame. Just a clean absence, just a calm withdrawal, just a reality they cannot edit. That is why silence can trigger such a strong inner reaction. It removes distraction, it removes the game, it removes the easy access they got used to. And then all their hidden thoughts begin speaking louder. They start wondering if they misread you, if they wasted something real, if your patience is gone for good, if your love has finally turned into detachment. That last thought can shake them more than anything else. Because attention feels comforting, but detachment feels final. The moment they suspect you are no longer emotionally hooked, the pressure rises inside them. That is when their deeper mind can start making plans without fully asking permission from logic. They may feel pushed to test the waters, to break the silence, to trigger a reaction, to prove to themselves they still have access. And if you have felt them circle back right when you were finally getting your peace back, now you understand why. What they are really struggling with is not only missing you, it is the loss of certainty, it is the loss of emotional supply, it is the collapse of an old pattern that made them feel safe and important. People get very attached to patterns, especially patterns that protect their pride. So when you step out of that pattern, they feel exposed. They begin noticing how much of their confidence depended on your constant presence. They may never say that out loud, most will not. Instead, it shows up in strange ways. They suddenly become more aware of every detail about you, the way you carry yourself now, the calm in your silence, the fact that your life keeps moving. Every sign of your independence hits them harder than they expected because it reminds them of something painful. You were never theirs to control. You were never theirs to command into place. You were a person choosing to care, and now you are a person choosing to step back. That is why their subconscious starts reacting like it has lost something huge. It begins creating urgency. It tells them time is running out. It reopens memories. It makes old moments feel brighter and heavier than before. It even pushes them toward dreams, fantasies, and emotional scenarios where they try to get close to you again. The longer your absence remains steady, the less they can hide from what it is doing to them. And this is the point where what felt like curiosity can turn into fixation. Fixation grows in silence because the mind keeps trying to solve what it cannot fully reach. That is why they may replay your old conversations over and over. They may read between lines that were never meant to be decoded. They may assign meaning to tiny things. They may imagine messages you would send, explanations you would give, feelings you might still have. All of this happens because the mind wants closure, and your silence denies easy closure. It becomes a vacuum. An empty space pulls attention toward it with force. If they already had unhealed pride, hidden fear, or a deep need to feel chosen, that vacuum gets even stronger. Suddenly their normal routines are interrupted by thoughts of you. Their phone becomes a trigger. Certain places remind them of you. Certain hours of the night feel heavier. They may act normal on the outside while mentally circling the same questions again and again. Why did you change? Are you really done? Is there someone else? Did they push too far? Did they underestimate you? And the question behind all the others is the one that hurts most. What if they cannot get you back into the same emotional position again? That question can push people into strange choices. It can make them reach out impulsively. It can make them test boundaries. It can make them send mixed signals just to see if you still react. Not because they are clear, but because they are unsettled. And when someone is deeply unsettled by losing access to you, their next move often says more about their inner panic than their maturity. This is why your silence must stay rooted in self-respect, not in strategy alone. Because once they begin unraveling, you may feel the energy shift. You may sense them watching more, hovering more, thinking more. They might return with soft words, sudden honesty, or emotional intensity that seems stronger than before. But the real question is not whether they come back. The real question is why. Are they returning because they finally faced themselves? Or are they returning because your absence became unbearable to their ego? There is a huge difference. One response leads to growth. The other leads to repetition. So do not let their urgency confuse you. Do not let panic pretend to be transformation. Real change has steadiness in it. It has accountability. It has humility. It does not just want the old access restored, it understands what was broken and why, and that is the power in your silence. It does not only reveal their feelings, it reveals their level. It shows you whether they can meet you honestly or whether they only react when they lose control. That truth matters, because the moment you stopped chasing, you also stopped feeding illusions. You stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own distance. You stopped carrying the emotional weight alone. And that shift is bigger than they expected. It forces reality into the room. It makes everything clearer, for them and for you. So if you have been wondering what they will do next after realizing you stopped chasing, this is the answer. First, they feel the absence. Then they feel the mirror. Then they feel the panic, the doubt, the replay, the pride wound, the fear of losing what they thought would stay available forever. After that, one of two things happens. They either go deeper into avoidance or they move toward you in some form because the pressure inside becomes too strong to ignore. But whatever they do, understand this clearly. Your silence changed the balance. It showed them that access to you is not automatic. It showed them that your care was valuable. It showed them that your energy had weight. And maybe most importantly, it showed you that you do not have to chase to be powerful. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is step back and let truth do its quiet work. Let them sit with the version of themselves that your absence uncovered. Let them feel what your effort once protected them from feeling. Let them face the empty space, because that space is not empty at all. It is full of truth, full of memory, full of the emotional reality they kept delaying. And if they are unraveling now, it is not because you did something cruel. It is because for the first time, they are meeting the consequences of taking your presence for granted. If this connected deeply, hold on to that feeling, because what scares them most is not losing the chase. It is realizing you may never chase again.